Zachariah Jackson, BASA News. Downtown Newark in front of 08 Lincoln. I don't think anyone can forget 08. I'm here with Gary Nash, who's running for county sheriff. And tell us what you're going to offer the community.
I woke up this morning and I received an article. The article spoke about how the Democratic Party line seemed to have made adjustments to the injunction that was put in place by Judge Karashi, which judges the U.S. District Court, and how the Democratic choices for the offices being run are still the top line in the ballot. That being said,
talk as loud as you can, because
that being said, it got me to thinking about how I started. I started this as a grassroots campaign, and one of the main things that I was interested in was moving beyond the politics as usual. The grassroots, taking care of the people who do the voting, the people who we are supposed to serve. We're supposed to serve you. You are not supposed to serve us. It's our job to look out after your welfare. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. My opponent is part of that movement. His father being the chairman of the Democratic Party, he took the job about 12 years ago. And after a few years of working as an officer in a few different divisions, a detective in a few different divisions, he became an undersheriff. The role of undersheriff had generally been reserved for people who had experience supervising in law enforcement. But the past few people who be chosen as undersheriffs, including my opponent, were appointed as a favor to people of the Democratic machine. That being said, when it came time to endorse someone, of course the Democratic machine picked the Democratic Party chairman's son. They didn't look at the fact that I had 31 years of law enforcement experience. They didn't look at the fact that I spent 22 of those years as a supervisor. That I supervised everything from the courts division to snowstorms up in the mountains to narcotics, the detective bureau, domestic violence. They didn't look at that because there's a political choice being made. Not a choice of experience, but a choice of relations. A legacy, I guess we'll call it. And with that being said, let me tell you some of the things that I plan to do as far as the department is concerned. First and foremost, one of the hardest things we have to deal with at this point is that there are people who are not taking this job. Why would you want to be a law enforcement officer when there are other jobs out there that are probably better or different or more appreciated? They talk about defunding the police. We don't need to defund the police. We need to fund the police so they can be better trained, so that they will understand what they're doing out there. I used to teach community policing in the academy. And the first thing I said to my people is, my students, know your community. Know the people that you're serving. Know what their problems are. Because in that way, you can help them along and making the adjustments that go with it. Are there times when you have to fight crime? Undoubtedly. But by the same token, sometimes the person that you run across is just someone having a bad day. And maybe, just maybe, if you give them a little bit of a break, that could go a long way into making things easier for you.
Yes.
Crimes are not solved in a bubble or in a vacuum. They are solved by a cooperation between law enforcement and the people who are in the community. That's how problems are solved. With that being said, there are certain aspects of that do need some addressing. For example, when I was a captain in the patrol division, one of the things that we had to institute that hadn't been used is called a station house adjustment. Now what a station house adjustment does is it's just basically a way to deal with the juvenile so that they don't have to go into the system.
Sure.
Because juveniles and teenagers make bad choices sometimes. They do. They do it because of peer pressure. They do it because they want to show off. They do it for a number of reasons. I know. I was a teenager once. I have teenage grandchildren now, but I had teenage children.
Sure.
So I understand that they do things sometimes that they even know about. Should we slam them because they did? Sometimes if you catch that early, you can make the changes that will make the changes for them. And as a captain in the sheriff's office, I helped write the protocol with the assistance of the Attorney General guidelines that we use for station house adjustments in the sheriff's department. And that was what I needed to do in order for my detectives to work more efficiently and my officers to work more respectfully with juveniles in the community. Manpower, equipment, funding, training, those are essential to law enforcement. That's why you can't defund the police, because we need the manpower to keep things moving at an even keel. We need the equipment to do our jobs properly. We need the equipment to be able to use other means to help us enforce what's going on rather than going to extreme measures. There are a lot of people out here right now who seem to have mental health issues. We need to partnership with the mental health community so that when an officer arrives on the scene, we can help control the situation, and hopefully we'll have a partnership of someone who can come out there and help the person through the crisis that they're serving at that time, they are experiencing at that time. Because the last thing I ever want to have happen is that someone gets hurt or killed because we didn't know or didn't take the proper measures to make this a positive outcome, not only for them, but for their family. Not only for their family, but for the community at large. And community relations is another big hot button issue with me. We need to have an outreach to the community. We need to have a focus point of officers whose job it is to be aware of what's going on in Irvington Park, in Verona Park, in Weequahic Park, in the South Orange Mountains, at the Turtleback Zoo. All these places that fall under our jurisdiction, where they can talk to employees, county employees, visitors, where they can be a liaison between the sheriff's department and the community, so that when a problem arises or when an event arises, we'll have the opportunity to be prepared for it. One of the big things that goes on is that there are events that take place in the park, and sometimes we don't even know they're going on. few years ago, there was a movie night in Weequahic Park. There was a problem with someone suffering a mental health episode. Newark police responded and did what they had to do. Now, this was a Newark-funded event, and that's fine. But had the Sheriff's Department or the Parks Department, whoever needed to be aware with, been aware of that event, they would have been there to handle it. We got some negative press for not being there, but that was one of those times after I had retired and after the Weequahic car had been removed from Weequahic Park. One other thing that's really a hot button issue with me is domestic violence. We have a unit in the Sheriff's Department whose responsibility it is to serve restraining orders. And we used to keep that unit focused every day on going out and serving restraining orders. At this point, they don't go out every day. It's not a focused unit. And in fact, I had even gone out with the unit as a captain for safety reasons, because the most important thing is safety. And their public safety and officer safety are not mutually exclusive. You can have both, you should have both, and under my administration, you will have both. I want to thank you for taking this time to listen to what I had to say. In closing, I'd like to say, I have the experience to be Essex County Sheriff. My opponent has the legacy to help the Democratic Party stay in control of the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff should be running the Sheriff's Department. On June 4th, be sure and pull 1B under Sheriff and choose experience over legacy. This is Gary Nash saying, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gary Nash. BASA News, goodbye.
Did I do okay?